Today we will have a class on mussel culture. Mussels are members of the phylum Mollusca. They are bivalve mollusks and they inhabit marine and freshwater habitats. And the peculiarity of their shell when compared to the other shelled mollusks is that the shell is somewhat elongated and asymmetrical in outline. And they are found in they are sessile forms which are attached to some substratum, and they are usually found in certain areas of the coastal region where they are found in large crowds, and these areas are called as mussel beds, and they belong to the family Mytilidae. They are mostly seen in the exposed shores in the intertidal region. And how are they attached to the substratum? They are attached to the substratum by means of threads which are called as byssal threads. Now coming to mussel fishery. Kerala is considered to be the mussel fishery zone of India. And the other mussel fish producing countries of the world are China, Spain, Netherlands and Italy. Coming to the economic importance of mussels. First of all, the mussel meat. It is very soft, tasty and nutritious, and it is enriched with 6 to 8% glycogen, 11 to 13% proteins, 2 to 3% fats, and it also contains minerals like calcium, phosphorus, iron, iodine, and vitamins like A and B complex. And not only the meat, the mussel shell, it is also used for production of lime as well as manure. Now, coming to the important species of mussels which are cultured in the Indian coast. The first one is the green mussel, whose scientific name is Perna viridis. It is also called as the Asian green mussel. It is economically important in India. In South India, the local people, they make various dishes using this mussel and they call it Kallimakaya. And coming to the Perna viridis, it grows to a length of about 80 to 100 millimeters. And why it is called as green mussel? You can see the shell of this mussel. The outline of this shell is called as periostracum, which is green in color, and this green color fades towards its apex, which is called as the umbo. So since the periostracum is shiny green in color, it is called as the green mussel. And when they are in young stages, they are more brighter. The distribution of mussels. They enjoy wide distribution in the east as well as the west coast of India. In Kerala, they are found from Koilon to Kasargod, and they are usually found in estuarine habitats up to a depth of 15 meters, and in high densities you can find them to a number of about 35,000 per meter square. And coming to the certain peculiarities, one is that they are of separate sexes and they fertilize externally. They are very much tolerant to temperature and salinity changes. That means they are both eurythermal, that is a temperature fluctuation of 11 to 32 degrees Celsius can be tolerated, and they are also euryhaline, that is 18 to 33 ppt they can survive. And they also show fast growth especially where they get abundance of phytoplankton, zooplankton, suspended organic materials, and so fast growth is seen at a depth of about 2 meters from the surface. So they are actually harvested for food, but in some mussels, but consumption of some mussels which will lead to food poisoning. This is because the mussels usually feed on dinoflagellates, and some of the dinoflagellates produce neurotoxins called as saxitoxins. So, if mussels containing these saxitoxins derived from dinoflagellates are consumed by humans, it can even lead to food poisoning. And they also cause certain damage to certain submerged structures such as drainage pipes. Now coming to the next species which is cultured in India, that is Perna indica. It is also called as the brown mussel. Unlike the green mussel, it enjoys only a restricted distribution. It is seen only in certain areas, that is in the southwest coast of India. They are found from Varkala to Kanyakumari and then to Tiruchendur along the southeast coast, and they are seen up to a depth of 10 meters. The mussels can grow to a length of 90 millimeters. They are also eurythermal as well as euryhaline, that is 10 to 30 degrees Celsius temperature can be tolerated, and 15 to 50 ppt salinity changes can be tolerated. They are also externally fertilizing forms and show the same feeding habits as that of the green mussel. And they grow to marketable size in just 6 or 7 months. That is why they are considered for cultivation. They are a preferred species for mussel cultivation, and they are suited to tropical and subtropical regions. And as we saw earlier, this is also subjected to poison. This is also subjected to harbor contaminants like saxitoxin, which is produced by the dinoflagellates. Now, what are the advantages of mussel farming? First of all, we saw that both these species of mussels are euryhaline. That means they can tolerate salinity changes. So they are fit for cultivation in brackish waters. The second is that they are fast growing, and the marketable size can be attained in 4 months, even though it takes 12 to 13 months in nature. So if optimum conditions and food availability is there, they can grow to marketable size in just 4 months. And because of that, in 1 year, 2 to 3 crops can be raised. And another advantage is that we have continuous seed availability. Seed means young stages of the mussel to start a culture. So that is also available throughout the year. And another thing is that they are filter feeders. They mostly prefer plankton, and so there is no need of providing artificial food. And they are also high yielding. So these are the advantages of mussel farming. Now the steps in mussel farming. First of all, the site where mussels are to be cultured. Usually unpolluted and sheltered areas of the sea are preferred for mussel farming, and these areas where we get clean water, abundant phytoplankton and moderate water currents. So they will bring in food and they will remove the waste materials. The optimum salinity preferred is 30 to 35 ppt and temperature is 21 to 30 degrees Celsius. So after site selection, the next step is collection of seeds. Seeds are the young stages of mussels. So collection can be done from natural habitats. From the mussel beds, collection can be done, and that is best done during the spawning season. And in the spawning season, from the substrata, from 1 meter square of rock substratum, 10 to 50 kg of mussel seed can be collected. And they are collected using collectors like ropes, poles, bamboo stakes, large bivalve shells, coconut shells, etc. All these can be used as collectors for collecting this spat, because they will all act as substratum for the young stages to settle. Now coming to the seed, various stages of seed. Here the mussels, as I already told you, they are externally fertilizing, and the fertilized eggs will first develop into free swimming larvae. This free swimming larva is called as the glochidium larva. Here you can see it. And the glochidial larva remains swimming for about 20 days, and from the 20th day onwards they will start settling down, and they will settle down as the next stage, which is called as spat. And this settling down continues for a period of 5 to 10 days. And here in this diagram you can see the various stages of spat, mussel spat. This is a very young stage just after settling down, and this is an advanced stage. So spat means it is a stage from settlement to 1 centimeter size, and thereafter they develop into the young seeds or the mussels. Now the seed availability in Kerala. As I already told you, the green mussel enjoys a wider distribution, and the seeds of this green mussel can be collected from Elattur, Vadagara, Mahi, Kannur and Kasargod. But the seeds of brown mussel are available in Vizhinjam. But large-scale mussel farming cannot fully depend on the seeds which we collect from nature. We have to induce spawning of the mussels to get enough spat or enough seed to start a culture. And what makes us or what forces us for induced breeding, we will see. So what is the need for induced spawning? First of all, the distribution of mussels is limited only to rocky shores. Second is, the spat fall occurs in abundance, but not all the larvae get a chance to settle down. Others will die out. So that is another problem. And the third one is that if massive seed collection occurs, and if there is over exploitation, it will lead to a destruction of its natural population. So these are some of the drawbacks when we fully depend upon natural habitats for mussel seed collection. So it is better to go for induced spawning. How can they be spawned? So for that we have to get a brood stock which consists of adult males and females, and they can be either collected from culture systems or from natural beds. They are to be adults, and we can employ physical, chemical and electrical methods for induced spawning. So the first thing is just rough handling can induce the ripe adults to spawn. So rough handling is enough. Another method of induced spawning is opening the shell and pocking of adductor muscles. The adductor muscles are those which help the shell valves to close. So here you can see the anterior and the posterior adductor muscles. So just pocking them can also, by opening the shell and pocking the adductor muscles, can also induce spawning. Another method that has been devised by CMFRI is immerse the adults in 6% hydrogen peroxide solution for 1 to 2 hours, and the solution should have a pH of 9, and thereafter they can be transferred to seawater. That will induce spawning in mussels. Another method is dipping the adult ones in ammonium chloride or barium chloride solution induces them to spawn. But the safest, most productive and commonest method is that they are just exposed to water in which we make a gradual increase of water temperature up to 4 degrees Celsius. 4 degrees Celsius and rise of temperature by 4 degrees Celsius is enough. That is the safest and most productive method. So these are the various methods for induced spawning: rough handling, pocking of adductor muscles, immersing in hydrogen peroxide solution and transferring to seawater, or dipping in ammonium chloride or barium chloride, and last increase in water temperature. And it is the males which usually spawn first compared to the females, and once they are seen starting spawning, they are to be transferred to pure seawater containing tanks, and thereafter spawning continues. Fertilization occurs. The fertilized eggs will develop into free swimming larvae known as glochidium, and these glochidium larvae can be reared in hatcheries where they can be fed with unicellular algae. And the larvae, by about the 20th day, the larvae start settling as spat, and this continues for a period of about 5 to 10 days. And how can we collect the spat? As we already mentioned, you can use ropes, poles, bamboo sticks, large bivalve shells, coconut shells, etc. can be used for spat collection. And they are grown as young seed, and they can be fed with phytoplankton, no need of other artificial feed. And thereafter they are to be transferred to the areas where mussel culture will take place. That we will see in another video. Thank you.